Good morning, folks. Here I am on the southwest part of Bainbridge Island at Fort Ward Park. Now, this is a place that I've been to probably 100 times or more. When we lived on Bainbridge Island, we would come out here all the time. But I've only fished here 3 times, and in those 3 times I've caught, according to my log, I've caught 2 fish. So it hasn't been particularly good for me, but that belies the fact that it looks really good here. There's great structure on the beach. This is rich passage out here. There's kind of a good current through here. I think why I haven't fished it more is just that it does tend to get quite popular with walkers, you know, people with dogs, bicyclists. But I'm here early enough in the morning that I should have an hour or 2 anyway of peace and quiet. So that said, I'm going to start getting ready to fish. I'll see you in a minute. As usual, I'm fishing with a full intermediate line, and I'm going to start off with this little fly. This doesn't have a name, it's just like a generic little bait fish I made. Can't really remember what's in it. This looks like peacock angel hair for the back. There's some lateral scale in there, and some kind of, that might be ripple eye stub, some pearly, and there's a little bit of red in the body. So yeah, I'm going to try that at first. So right now we're about an hour and a half away from low tide. It's not a really big tide today, but when the tide turns, hopefully some of this brilliant structure is going to get covered up. That's really kind of what I want to fish. And although it looks really kind of overcast at the moment, it is forecast to be sunny this morning, which isn't real good for the fishing, but it is what it is. I really wanted to get out today, so I'm going to start. The water is really pretty cloudy. And that's probably due to the wave action that was going on when I arrived. A combination of that and maybe ferry traffic. So I remember the last time I fished here, kind of this time of day, there was a coyote on the beach behind me. I'll have a look in my files and see if I can find that footage and slip it in here. It was right along here. There's a coyote on the beach. So I'm seeing little bait fish flipping around all around me, which is a good sign. Maybe there are some sea runs going to be feeding on them. So the building you see directly in front of me there on the wharf used to belong to Cook Aquaculture, the biggest aquaculture company in the world. And here in Rich Passage, they operated net pens to grow Atlantic salmon. Washington State was the only state that still permitted aquaculture of finfish. It had been banned in California, in Oregon and Alaska, but not in Washington State. And Cook not only had this facility, but they had another net pen system in Port Angeles, and notably at a place called Cypress Island, which is up near Anacortes. And that one at Cypress Island in 2017 collapsed. The company said it was due to extreme high tides, but in fact they just hadn't maintained the nets, and they were just kind of covered in biomass, and it just broke out. And it released hundreds of thousands of Atlantic salmon into the Salish Sea. You can imagine, that's a potential for disaster. So I don't think they can breed because they're sterile, but they compete with the native fish for food and for habitat. So just a bad situation. Partly as a result of that, in 2022, the Department of Natural Resources banned aquaculture of finfish in the state, and they did not renew the license for Cook. So amid much protestation, they've removed that operation, which is a great thing. Now I know that the world is going to need sources of protein as population continues to grow, and we fish out natural resources and global warming limits agriculture and stuff like that. But I think we can do better than net pen farming in the ocean. For one thing, that concentration of fish leads to all kinds of diseases. There are viruses that have spread through the cooked net pens among the salmon population, and that can spread to native fish. And likewise, studies have shown that salmonids that live and forage near these net pens have a higher than normal amount of sea lice infestation, which is not good, because the sea lice just got crazy in that situation, of having captive fish at high concentration. And then you've got the issue of all the poop and the food that gets wasted, which just settles on the bottom, and it causes algal bloom, and it just consumes all the oxygen. Just very bad. So yeah, that was the situation. So I know I haven't posted a video in quite a while. The truth is I've not really been able to fish in the last month. My father-in-law, Graham, in the UK, is 99, and he had a kind of a sudden decline in his health, and my wife decided it would be prudent to go over to England and spend some time with him, which she did. And he passed away while she was over there. So it's wonderful that she did time it so that she got to spend some time with him. But she was away for 3 weeks, and we have a little dog who is very old and kind of needy, and we don't have anyone to look after her. So I had to stay and look after the dog for the weeks while Veronica was away, and so I couldn't leave her to go fishing, really. But she's back home now. She will be going back for the funeral in a couple of weeks, so I'll be home alone again. But yeah, we'll miss the old guy. He was a real character. He was a classically trained musician and very accomplished organist and choir master, and a real character, a true British gentleman. At one time he was voted the best dressed man in Cambridge. So yeah, he'll be missed. Well, I've still got no bites, so I'm probably not a good strategy, but I'm changing my fly again. I'm putting on a squimp, one of the old faithfuls. So walking over this particular beach, you see there's lots of this strange stratified substance, which I think is siltstone or mudstone, something like that. And it's in these kind of diagonal plates. So this part of Bainbridge Island is kind of interesting geologically, because the Seattle Fault runs right through the southern end of Bainbridge Island, and about 1,000 years ago it gave way. You know, there's a massive upheaval, and actually the very southern portion of the island was lifted by a good 20 feet, and there are places on the island where you can see where that happened, and we're very close to it here at Fort Ward. Those sound like purple martins flying around on those pilings over there. I'm going to check that out. Like just weird atmospheric conditions at the moment. Thick grey fog in some places, and then just bright sunshine behind me. I've got a fish. Great. Not the biggest sea run, but still very, very welcome. Actually, that is a oh, it's a sea run. On the squimp. Now, had I not caught a fish today, I would have still had a great time, because what's not to like? I love this place. I've been coming here for decades, not fishing, but the place means a lot to me, and catching the fish is, it just kind of validates the whole thing. So yeah, you don't want a feeling of utter futility. But that's not to say, yeah, I would still have enjoyed myself without catching a fish. You can see the Olympics just starting to peek through now. A glorious, glorious morning it's turning out to be. So for people who might be unfamiliar with Bainbridge Island and its history, Fort Ward, where I'm fishing today, used to be a coast artillery post established by the Army in 1903. And its purpose was to defend the entry into the Bremerton Naval Shipyard, which is kind of around there. There's no way to get to Bremerton without going through Rich Passage here. So the main defenses against invasion or blockade by foreign navies are a little bit further to the north. There are three forts, Fort Worden, Fort Flagler, Fort Casey, that formed the so-called Triangle of Fire. And they were capable of defending the entry into Puget Sound from the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And they had massive guns, like 12-inch guns with a huge range, and they could totally cover that whole area. So down here on Bainbridge Island, it was a much smaller affair. They had 4 gun batteries here, so 2 of them lie outside of the present-day park, and 2 of them are still here. You can visit and see them, and I'll put some pictures up. So here they had 3-inch rapid fire guns, that could defend this area, and they were also charged with maintaining a minefield, an anti-submarine minefield out here. And Fort Ward, as a coastal artillery unit, lasted until 1928, something like that, and obviously they never fired a shot in anger. And it lay dormant for a long time, and then in 1938 it was re-established by the Navy as a secret listening post. And folks here would monitor primarily Japanese military and diplomatic radio transmissions. And the codes had been cracked sometime before, and they didn't decode or decrypt the messages that they intercepted here at Fort Ward. Instead, they would relay the information, which they call magic. They relayed that via a big radio transmitter, which is on the other side of the island, to Seattle, and then to Washington, D.C., where the decrypting specialists would get to work. So the main claim to fame of Fort Ward is that they intercepted the message in the early hours of the morning of December the 7th, 1941. And that was a message from Japanese High Command to their ambassador in Washington, D.C. And he was instructed in this 14-part message that he was to break off diplomatic relations. He was going to go and see the Secretary of State at 1 p.m. on the 7th. So here at Fort Ward, they got that message several hours ahead of time without realizing what it was. And it was decoded in Washington, D.C. And then there was a frantic effort to try and alert, the chain of command, because it was pretty obvious that it was a prelude to war. But unfortunately, the attack on Pearl Harbor had already started. So Fort Ward did play some part in, really historic events. as the tide has started to come in, it has brought with it a lot of weed. It's just like it's everywhere, and I cannot fish through it. I would have liked to have stayed a bit longer, but it's not fishable like this, and the weed isn't going anywhere. It's just hanging around. So I'm going to have to call it, unfortunately. Still a very pleasant day on the water, and very much thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, even though there was only one fish. You know, it's a nice place to be. So that's going to be my last cast, and it's time to go home.